Yo, what up everyone? Amir here on Rapping and Snacking, getting into another hot takes video that y'all submitted to my Instagram. And let's get into some of these. Hit me up on Instagram and TikTok at Rapping and Snacking. I'm going to be taking more hot takes from everyone here on Instagram, probably some on YouTube as well, so just stay tuned. I'm either going to do it on like the YouTube channel feed or Instagram. I'll just combine both of them and pick some, and I will shout all of y'all out too. So appreciate y'all. Let's get into one of these hot takes. First off, we got fresh off the gate here. We got someone named Tom Hader Lenim. I'm butchering that for sure, so apologies. But anyways, this person is saying Terror Squad is the greatest hip-hop group. It's worth noting that this person does have a Big Pun Capital Punishment profile picture, and I would assume Big Pun is one of this person's favorite MCs. I'm going to go ahead and do a hard disagree. This is actually the first time in my life that I've heard someone referring to Terror Squad as the best hip-hop group. Never heard that before. And Terror Squad, they're cool and all, but to consider yourself the best, I can name so many groups that I would take over Terror Squad. First of all, Terror Squad, in my opinion, their most anticipated member that you'd want to see on the tracks. Unfortunately, he passed away. That's Big Pun, so he wasn't even there for the second album. Sure, they had some of his verses on that album, but he wasn't really on that album, right? So, true story, and with their first album called The Album, you're going to put that as the best hip-hop group, and even those albums, let's say those albums were incredible, which they're not. They don't rack up with Outkast albums, Mobb Deep albums, Gang Starr albums, Wu-Tang albums. I'd take Run the Jewels over them. We can go even newer groups that are still putting out stuff. If you want to put Freddie and Madlib as a group, I'd take their two albums over the two Terror Squad albums. So, no. I think one thing that's very important with this take is I think as people, we try very hard to be objective, and this is one of those takes that it's so clear that it's so hard to be objective for all of us, obviously including me. All this stuff is, as I try and keep a straight face, all that stuff, everything is still my opinion. Nothing I'm saying is 100% in stone fact. That's what make this stuff fun. But at the end of the day, Ice Cube I know is my favorite rapper, but I'll never go ahead and say he's the best rapper because he is not the best rapper. He had a great prime and then he fell down real hard. He had a steep decline. But I think we got to be honest as fans. I think in 5 years, this person will not say that Terror Squad is the best hip-hop group ever. But respect anyways, bless up. Next up, we got someone named Spadaus. I've also butchered that one, my bad. This person is saying Ari is underrated. So this person is, I can only assume they're talking about Ari the Rugged Man. And yes, I agree. Ari the Rugged Man is really dope. The biggest problem with Ari the Rugged Man is he's been around for a very long time. He's been around for close to 30 years. Not quite 30, I don't think, but he's been for sure 25 years because he had a track with Biggie, for example, when Biggie was alive. And that song was called Cunt Renaissance, for those who don't know. But he has been around for so long, but he doesn't have a ton of work to show for it. Obviously, he's made a lot of music. He's also been blackballed at a time. He's had a lot of label issues. He's also had a lot of mental issues, which he's talked about on various songs. Ari the Rugged Man is a freaking awesome artist, and he's really, really, really dope. But the thing is, he just doesn't have a ton of material. With that being said, he's got some great albums. That Legends Never Die album that dropped in, 2013 is really, really, really dope. The All My Heroes Are Dead album, which dropped in maybe 2020, I think, that was really dope. Even his Die Rugged Man Die album was good. What he's most known for is actually a feature from Jedi Mind Trick's Uncommon Valor song, which Vinny Paz had a dope verse on that, but Ari the Rugged Man stole the show. The world knows it. And if you haven't heard Ari the Rugged Man, do yourself a favor and listen to Uncommon Valor, a Vietnam story. It's a song by Jedi Mind Tricks, and it's one of the best guest features you'll hear in your entire life. The verse will give you chills, guaranteed. It's phenomenal. It's really like a unicorn verse because it's that special. And listen to it, and if you don't like that verse, you're just a hater. Honestly, you're just a hater if you don't like that verse. It's phenomenal and exceptional, and I agree with this take. Next up, we got a spicy one here. And This person, their name is Official Hip Hop Universe, and they are saying Andre 3000 from Outkast shouldn't be in no one's top 10s. So, I know this might piss some people off. That's why I'm calling it a spicy one. It doesn't really piss me off. I think Andre 3000, his contributions to hip hop are amazing. I think he's half of the best duo and group in hip hop, with Big Boy being the other half of that with Outkast. And I don't hate this take because Andre 3000 has been around also for like 30 years, but I wish he had more music, right? He still does guest features. He still pops up every now and then. He's just living his life. Like these rappers, these artists, they don't owe anything to us. So if they want to drop an album every 10 years, every 5 years, whatever, more power to them, right? But with that being said, like if I had a top 10, which I don't right now, I haven't had a top 10 in a minute. But if I did have a top 10, Andre 3000 would not be in my top 10. But to go as far as saying shouldn't be in anyone's top 10s at all, that I think is where it gets a little spicy. And that I'll disagree with, right? Because, there's so much that goes into, your own preference and all that stuff, right? But Andre 3000 is amazing. He's put out incredible music. But yeah, as far as quantity-wise, has he put out enough? That is debatable, right? But what he has put out is stellar. And another thing that hangs over Andre 3000 is he never had a solo album. And you can obviously say Speaker Box, Love Below, those are just two solo albums packaged as a a group album. I agree, because those were essentially two solo albums. But I think what they're expecting is without the Outkast label on it. Was he able to do a solo album? And he hasn't. Do I think he's incapable of that? Of course not. I think he can drop one if he really wanted to, but maybe the inspiration isn't there. This is an interesting take. I'd like to see what y'all think below. Like I said, if I made a top 10 today, would he be in it? He wouldn't be in it today. If I made it a few years ago, he would be in it, but who cares? These top 10 lists are wild. Apologies, heard the AC come on, so I didn't want to mess with the audio, so now I'm back. Next up, we got someone named GD018. This person is saying if Big L would have not died, we could have seen Nas versus Big L beef since L was about to sign with Jay. So I don't think this falls in the realm of hot takes. I think that this is where we get into the speculation realm and the what if realm, and we can go for days on a thousands of topics of this, and I personally don't like talking about things like this because we can just go on and on and on and on and on. And I can confirm that that yes, Big L was supposedly going to sign to Rockefeller. I actually used to work with Dame Dash. I used to work at a radio station, and I worked on his show. He had a podcast there, and he actually did say that Big L was going to sign with Rockefeller. And I've heard that from his mouth. He's also said it outside of his podcast too, on other various outlets. But the point is, would they have beefed? I don't know. This is going into some speculative realm that who freaking knows. I'm not gonna really weigh in on this. I mean, Big L and Nas. Big L has also had homage to Nas as well. So he shouted him out on things. He sampled his music. So it's kind of like Jay-Z also did that. He shouted him out, he sampled his music, and they still got into beef. I don't know. I don't really take Big L as someone who had as big of an ego as Jay-Z does. So I would, if I had to put my mind to it, I would say no to that. I'd say Big L kind of stay in his own lane, do his own thing. But it's possible. No one knows the answer. So that's my opinion on that. Maybe y'all want to sound off down below what y'all think about that. Let's stick with Jay-Z. This person named Scott Meets Evil is saying Jay-Z is the most consistent rapper of all time. That's an interesting take. And I'm going to go ahead and disagree. I don't think I think he does have a very consistent discography, and he is a dope MC, and he stayed relevant for a long time, and he's just awesome. But I think that I don't think so, because I think there were some peaks and valleys in his discography, particularly with Blueprint 2, Blueprint 3 especially, Kingdom Come. I think that he did have a couple more dips than some other people that I'd say are a little more consistent, like the Scarfaces of the world. So I disagree with that. Also, one thing that's worth noting is I think, and this may be a hot take within itself of this hot take, but I think that Jay-Z is not, I think every single Jay-Z album has one or two throwaways, or one or two songs that should be trimmed off. That goes all the way back from Reasonable Doubt all the way to even 444. I think every single Jay-Z album can have a song or two trimmed off it, which is interesting because not all of Jay-Z's albums have a lot of songs on them. Usually you see that on albums with like more than 17, 18 tracks, and you're like, oh, I need to take off 1, 2, 3 tracks. But I think every Jay-Z album, you can take off 1 or 2 tracks. Every single one, I think so. So that's one interesting thing about it. Whereas some rappers who I think are on Jay-Z's level or better or slightly worse, I think some of them have released albums that you don't have to take any song off. So I find that interesting. That's like my own little hot take, but boom, whatever. Next up, we got someone saying, this person name is More MF Doom, R.I.P. MF Doom. They're saying Biggie Smalls, also R.I.P. Biggie Smalls is hugely underappreciated. Every time he's mentioned, someone mentions Pac. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think Biggie is underappreciated in that sense. I think that the Notorious B.I.G., it's a shame that when people bring him up, people bring up Tupac. In the same way that I think it's a shame when people who bring up Tupac bring up Biggie. In the same way that I think it's a shame that when people bring up Nas, they bring up Jay-Z. In the same way that I think it's a shame when people bring up Big Boy, they bring up Andre 3000. Sometimes these artists, they don't need to always be associated with someone they are once close with or once enemies with or whatever. And that's the case with Biggie. Also, it's unfair that, or also he's overappreciated because of his untimely death, right? Let's be honest here. If Biggie did not end up dying and he was still with us today, would he still be held in such high regard? It's very possible he wouldn't. We don't know that. With that being said, I agree that it's disrespectful to always mention Tupac when you bring up Biggie. Why? They're such different artists. Sure, they were friends, and they had the beef, and then all this other stuff blew up, but we don't need to associate them with each other. I wish people kind of thought on their own and they didn't, like, it's always like the casual fans that every time you bring up Tupac, they bring up Biggie. Like, it's always those people, like, for example, when I meet somebody, for example, who, you know, I have this rep around me where people always are like, oh, you're the hip-hop guy, or like, you know, that always happens, right? Or when you meet new people, they'll be like, oh, my homie loves hip-hop, and then it'll be me. And then sometimes what I'll hear is the first question for me, and these are always from like casual fans. They'll say, oh, East Coast or West Coast, what do you prefer? They'll say, oh, Tupac or Biggie, who do you like? It's like, well, that off the bat is telling me that you probably just listen to rap, and you're not like a big fan of it, but you're just trying to like get to know me on that level. And to me, when people always associate artists who had beef with each other like Biggie and Tupac, to me it just signals that they probably don't know much about hip-hop, or they're just involved in the beef thing and they don't really care that much. So I don't really take it personally, but I wish people had kind of like more thoughts of their own and didn't associate these artists with one another all the time. I kind of went on a little tangent there. It's definitely a pet peeve of mine. I really hate it. I've discussed this on so many occasions on Instagram and YouTube, but appreciate that. More MF Doom. Next up, we got someone here saying, this is Sadness Feelings. This person is just shouting me out, so I'm just going to show some love. Rapping and snacking, the goat of hip-hop, IG, Instagram. Not a hot take, just love your stuff, and a bunch of emojis. So I appreciate y'all. I've gotten quite a few of these, so I just want to shout this person out and everyone else who's been shouting out the YouTube, the Instagram, all that stuff. Really, really appreciate it. Next on, we got someone named Mills Coolin saying old Kanye is greater than new Kanye. I don't think this is a hot take. I think this is something that it's so not a hot take that they actually made merch about this. Like, I've seen people rocking merch that says old Kanye is better than new Kanye. I've seen people talking about this for like at minimum 5 years. It's actually probably been closer to 10 years, at minimum like 8 years really, because like, The Life of Pablo, that was 2016, so that's 6 years ago. Okay, so at minimum 6 years. So The Life of Pablo, Kanye on there has a song called I Love Kanye. And what are the words on it? Where he says, I miss the old Kanye, and he talks about the pink polo Kanye and all this stuff. Like, even Kanye is aware because he's heard it so many times. People saying, oh, we want College Dropout back. Oh, we want the polo back. Oh, we want, like, the self-conscious Kanye back. We want the sped-up samples, the chopped up the soul, and all this stuff. And it's like, it's gotten to the point where it's not a hot take now. This is kind of like the norm of people just preferring old Kanye. And so, one, I don't think that's a hot take. Two, it's like, what is old Kanye? Is old Kanye only like is old Kanye only bare Kanye? Like college dropout, late registration, graduation? Because if that's the case, then no, I would take mid Kanye maybe even. Because the Kanye in the middle of his career up to this point dropped My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which in my opinion is the best album in his discography, and it's just a masterpiece. So I think that's better than all of his albums. But it's like, what is old Kanye? You got to throw some years on this. But usually what people are talking about is they're talking about the bare Kanye with College Dropout all the way up until graduation, and even like before then with like the Blueprint where he was dropping production and other albums. So I don't know. I kind of am starting to hate this take, to be honest with you, because now it's kind of like, that's another one of those talking points. Like, well, people come up to me, oh, East Coast or West Coast hip hop. Then another thing is like, oh, man, I love old Kanye West, but I don't like that new Kanye West. He's crazy. Or, oh, he's got mental disabilities and all this stuff. Like, people would be saying that. And I'm like, you just sound like a rehash of what everyone's saying on the internet. Like, let's get some originality here. My opinion. Shout out to you, Mills Coolin. Next up, we got someone here named Ned Wheatley1, and we're sticking with the Kanye theme here. This person saying, Get Rich or Die Trying is greater than any Kanye album. Wow. This is actually kind of tough because Get Rich or Die Trying, in my opinion, is one of the best albums that I've heard. I love it so much. It is a perfect mix of gangster with pop, with incredible hooks, instrumentals, beats. The shit just gets you hypnotized in how good it is, and it sold so many copies. Thing is, it does have a couple songs that I can do without, like, is it called, like, When I Get to Heaven? Like, that's one song that I'm not crazy about, and Poor Little Rich I'm also not crazy about, and then there's one other song that I'm not as crazy about. Whatever. I'm doing these off top of the dome, so I should have prepared. Anyways, the point is, there's, like, 3 songs I'd probably do without on that album. Then we got My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, which Get Rich or Die Trying, I would take over everything. I would really even take over College Dropout. I'd take it over Late Registration. Oh, but the album that I would not take it over is My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and that album is so good. And maybe it's not as replayable as Get Rich or Die Trying, because even as replayable as My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is, you will not find many albums that are as replayable as Get Rich or Die Trying. I mean, we're talking hits. We're talking bangers. We're talking songs that will live a lifetime, that once we are all old and gray watching this video, those songs will still be going. Your grandkids will still be saying, go shorty, it's your birthday. And no Kanye song has that much impact. And we're talking Kanye, one of the most influential artists of all time. So it's wild, but My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy to me is better than Get Rich or Die Trying. I think the beats on there are also exceptional. You know, whichever you prefer, it's one thing. But the theme of it, the whole Runaway music video / mini movie, that's incredible. The whole, obviously, the Sonics are masterful throughout. Who he casted on the album, from Rick Ross to RZA to Pusha T to Jay-Z to Nicki Minaj to Pete Rock. Pete Rock was on there? Yeah, Pete Rock. Like, all these people who were on this album contributing is nuts. And then he flew everyone to the island, and they're all like, they had to dress a certain way. They had to watch porn. They had to do certain things. Like, it was like a crazy budget, and it worked out. It's like, it's incredible. So, I mean, that album it's like a movie, and the music is incredible. It's wow. It's wow. So I have to take that over Get Rich or Die Trying, but those 2 albums are both big time bangers and gonna last forever. Those are my opinions. What do y'all think of these hot takes? Am I crazy? Are y'all crazy? Are these people crazy? Are we all crazy? Or are we all gonna agree for once? Anyways, hit me up. Drop some more hot takes in the comments. I'll record more of these. I love doing these. They're very fun. And let's keep it peaceful. Bless y'all.